My daughter told me I needed to stop showing up unannounced at her house, so I took back the $60,000 I gave her for the down payment while she was at the country club. I need you to understand something first. I'm not a vindictive person. I raised Stephanie to be kind, to be grateful, to understand that family takes care of each other. For 34 years, I thought I'd done a good job. My name is Barbara. I'm 67 years old, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had a daughter who loved me. It started small. Little comments here and there that I told myself didn't mean anything. Mom, maybe call before you come over? Or we're really busy this weekend. Can we reschedule? I understood. Stephanie and Chad had 2 kids, both under 10. Life gets hectic. I remembered those years myself, back when my husband Richard was alive and we were raising Stephanie. Richard died 4 years ago. Heart attack. He was 68, supposed to have decades left. We had plans. We were going to travel, see the national parks, maybe buy that little cabin in Montana we always talked about. Instead, I scattered his ashes in the lake, where he taught Stephanie to fish. After Richard died, Stephanie stepped up. She called every day those first few months, brought the kids over on weekends, invited me to every school play, every soccer game, every birthday party. I thought, this is what family does. This is what I raised her to do. When Stephanie and Chad started talking about buying a bigger house, I didn't hesitate. They'd been renting that cramped townhouse, the kids sharing a bedroom, no yard to speak of. Chad worked in sales, did okay but nothing spectacular. Stephanie had gone part-time after their second child was born. Mom, she said over coffee one afternoon, her voice careful in that way that told me she was about to ask for something. We found the perfect house. 4 bedrooms, huge backyard, good school district, but the down payment? I already knew where this was going. How much do you need? $60,000. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I know it's a lot. We'll pay you back, I promise. Once Chad gets that promotion he's expecting, once I go back full-time, I put my hand over hers. Stephanie, you're my daughter. You don't have to explain. What I didn't tell her was that $60,000 was a quarter of what Richard had left me. What I didn't tell her was that I'd been thinking about that cabin in Montana, about finally taking those trips we'd planned. What I didn't tell her was that every penny mattered now that I was living on a fixed income. But she was my daughter, and those were my grandchildren. And isn't that what mothers do? I wrote the check that same day. Stephanie cried, hugged me tight, said I was the best mother in the world. Chad pumped my hand, promised they'd pay me back within 5 years. I had them both sign a promissory note, just to keep things official, though I told them not to worry about it. They moved into that house 3 months later. It was beautiful. Colonial style, wraparound porch, maple trees in the front yard that turned brilliant red every October. The kids finally had their own rooms. There was even a guest room, Stephanie said, for when I wanted to visit. I helped them move in, painted the kids' bedrooms with them, hung curtains, assembled furniture from IKEA that tested my patience and my reading glasses. At the end of that first day, covered in paint and exhausted, Stephanie ordered pizza, and we sat on their back deck watching the kids run around the yard. "This is perfect, Mom," she said. "Thank you for everything." I thought she meant it. The first few months were good. I'd come over maybe twice a week, always bringing something, groceries, toys for the kids. Sometimes I'd just bring myself and my willingness to babysit so Stephanie and Chad could have date night. I loved those evenings with Emma and Jack, reading stories and making popcorn and letting them stay up just a little past bedtime. Then things started to change. It was subtle at first. Stephanie began scheduling my visits. "Mom, can you come over Tuesday at 2 instead? We have plans." Or, "Actually, this weekend doesn't work. How about next month?" Next month? I told myself she was busy. I told myself I was being oversensitive. Richard used to joke that I could find worry in a clear blue sky. Then came Thanksgiving. I'd hosted Thanksgiving for 34 years. It was tradition. My house, my turkey, My table that Richard had built in our garage the first year we were married. But that October, Stephanie called. Mom, we were thinking we'd do Thanksgiving at our place this year. It's time we started our own traditions. Something in my chest went tight. Oh, of course. I can bring the turkey, and Actually, Chad's mom is bringing the turkey, and his sister is doing the sides. We thought it would be nice to let everyone contribute. Everyone except me, apparently. I showed up on Thanksgiving with 2 pies I'd stayed up late baking, pumpkin and apple, Richard's favorites. Stephanie put them on the counter next to 3 other pies. Oh, Mom, you didn't have to. Chad's mom brought desserts too. Chad's mom, Linda. She was there in Stephanie's kitchen, wearing an apron I'd given Stephanie last Christmas, basting a turkey in a roasting pan I recognized from my own cabinet. Stephanie must have borrowed it and never returned it. Barbara, Linda called out cheerfully. So good to see you. Can you help set the table? The good china is in the dining room. I helped set the table. I folded napkins. I filled water glasses. I felt like a guest in what I had started to think of as my daughter's home, the home I had made possible. At dinner, I sat at the far end of the table. Chad's family filled the seats around Stephanie and Chad. Emma was next to Linda, Jack next to Chad's sister. There was laughter and conversation flowing around me, and I sat there with my plate of food going cold, wondering when I'd become an afterthought. After Thanksgiving, I gave Stephanie space. Didn't call for a week. When I finally did, she sounded distracted. Mom, I can't really talk now. We're getting ready for Emma's birthday party. Oh, my heart lifted. What time should I come? I made her a sweater, that purple color she loves. The party's Saturday at 2. We sent an invitation to your email. I hung up and checked my email. The invitation was there, sent to 25 people. I was named number 23 on the list, below the neighbors, below Chad's coworkers. I went to the party, brought the sweater and a card with a $100 check inside. Emma opened my gift in a pile with 15 others. The sweater got a quick thanks, Grandma, before she moved on to the next box. The party was loud, full of children I didn't know and parents who didn't know me. Stephanie was busy hosting, barely had time to say hello. I left early. No one noticed. December came. I asked about Christmas plans. Stephanie said they were thinking about skiing in Colorado. Just the 4 of them. Family time, she said. Like I wasn't family. What about me? I tried to keep my voice light. Mom, you don't ski. I could still come. Watch the kids when you're on the slopes. We already booked everything. 4-person condo, maybe next year. I spent Christmas alone. Made a turkey breast for myself, watched It's a Wonderful Life and cried through the ending like I always did, except this year I was crying for different reasons. January, February, March. The calls became less frequent. The visits became scheduled appointments. I can fit you in Tuesday at 3 for an hour, like I was a dental cleaning. Then came April. I showed up at Stephanie's house on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 o'clock, just like she'd said. But when I walked in using the key she'd given me when they moved in, the key I'd never had to use before because someone was always home, the house was quiet. I called out. No answer. I walked through the kitchen, noticed new appliances, a fancy espresso machine that cost more than my first car, a wine fridge built into the island. When had they gotten those? I heard voices from upstairs. Stephanie's office. The door was half open. I just think it's time we had the conversation, a man's voice said. Chad, I know. That was Stephanie. It's just, she's my mother, and she's getting older. Have you seen her lately? She's slowing down. And she shouldn't be living alone in that big house. What if something happens? My hand found the wall. I should have announced myself, should have called out. Instead, I stood there in my daughter's hallway and listened. What are you suggesting? Stephanie asked. There are facilities, nice ones, where she'd have people checking on her, activities, medical care if she needs it, and it would free up some of that money she's sitting on. Chad. I'm just being practical. She gave us $60,000 for this house. How much more does she have? She's not going to need it in assisted living. There was a long pause. Then Stephanie spoke, her voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it. I'll look into places. I backed away from that door as quietly as I could. Made it to the kitchen. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the doorknob. I left my daughter's house, the house I'd paid for, and sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to remember how to breathe. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Chad's voice. Free up some of that money she's sitting on. I kept hearing Stephanie agree to look at assisted living facilities. For me, I was 67 years old, in perfect health, still drove myself everywhere, still lived independently, and my daughter was planning to put me away. The next morning, I went to my bank, asked to see my account statements going back 5 years. The banker, a young man named Tyler who'd helped Richard and me set up our accounts decades ago, looked concerned. Is everything all right, Mrs. Patterson? I need to see exactly where my money has gone. He printed the statements. I sat in his office and went through them, line by line. The $60,000 for the house down payment. That was there. Check number 2,847, dated 18 months ago. But there was more. $45,000, 2 years ago. The check memo said Stephanie's wedding. I'd forgotten about that. Or maybe I'd chosen not to think about it. Richard had died 6 months before the wedding. Stephanie wanted the ceremony her father had dreamed of for her. The country club, the band, the flowers, the open bar. I'd written that check through tears, thinking at least Richard would have wanted this. $12,000 for Emma's medical. I remembered that. She'd broken her arm badly, needed surgery. Insurance covered most of it, but there were deductibles, co-pays, specialists, $8,000 scattered over the past year. Loan to Stephanie, emergency car repair, help with mortgage. I added it up 3 times to make sure. $125,000. That's how much of Richard's life insurance had gone to my daughter and her family. $125,000, and she was planning to put me in a home so she could access the rest. Mrs. Patterson? Tyler was watching me with worried eyes. Are you okay? Do you have any lawyers you recommend? My voice sounded calm. Strange how calm it sounded. I need someone who specializes in promissory notes and loan recovery. His eyes widened slightly, but he maintained his professional composure. I can give you a few names. I called the first lawyer on the list from my car. Her name was Margaret Chen. She could see me that afternoon. Margaret was exactly what I needed. Mid-50s, sharp eyes, no nonsense demeanor. She listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally making notes on her legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. You have the promissory note? They both signed it? Yes. I'd brought everything. The note, the canceled check, the bank statements, and this was for a down payment on a house they currently live in? Yes. Margaret smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Mrs. Patterson, I can absolutely help you. The question is, how far do you want to take this? I want my money back. All of it? I thought about that conversation I'd overheard, about Stephanie agreeing to look at facilities, about them spending my money on espresso machines and ski trips while planning to warehouse me somewhere so they could get their hands on the rest. All of it. Margaret explained the process. We'd start with a formal demand letter. Give them 30 days to pay the $60,000 they'd signed the promissory note for. If they didn't pay, we'd file a lawsuit. The note was legally binding. We'd win. What about the rest? I asked. The wedding, the medical bills, the loans? Those are harder without documentation. But the note alone gives us leverage. Once they realize you're serious, we can negotiate for repayment of the additional funds. Though I should warn you, this will destroy your relationship with your daughter. I thought about the look on Stephanie's face when I'd handed her that $60,000 check. I thought about all those Sunday dinners, those bedtime stories with the grandkids, Those moments when I'd thought I was building a relationship with my daughter that would last my lifetime. Then I thought about assisted living facilities, about being put away so I wouldn't be inconvenient, about my money being the only thing that made me valuable. Our relationship is already destroyed, I said. She just hasn't told me yet. The demand letter went out 2 days later. Certified mail, signature required. I tracked it online. Stephanie signed for it on a Thursday afternoon. She called me 30 minutes later. Mom, what the hell is this? A demand letter? From a lawyer? You received it then. You're suing me? For the down payment? It was a loan, Stephanie. You and Chad both signed a promissory note. The note states repayment within 5 years. It's been 18 months. I'm simply asking for my money back. We can't just come up with $60,000. We have a mortgage, the kids, expenses. You have an espresso machine that costs $3,000. You have a wine fridge. You took a ski vacation in Colorado. Seems like you have money for the things you want. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, Mom, what is this really about? This was my moment. I could tell her I'd overheard that conversation. I could tell her how much it hurt to be reduced to a bank account, to be seen as an inconvenient old woman taking up space and resources. I could tell her I'd spent 4 years trying to be there for her, trying to be the mother I thought she needed, while she slowly pushed me out of her life. Instead, I said, it's about the money, Stephanie. Just like it's always been about the money. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. I gave you $125,000 over the past 5 years. Wedding, medical bills, down payment, loans you never mentioned paying back, and I never asked for a penny of it. Until now. Another silence. How do you know about all of that? I went through my bank statements. Something I should have done a long time ago. We needed that money. We were struggling, and I helped. Every single time. I was your mother. That's what mothers do. I paused. But I'm done being an ATM. Mom, you have 30 days to respond to the letter. Talk to Chad. Talk to a lawyer. Figure it out. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking again, but this time it felt different. Not fear, something else, something that felt almost like power. Chad called next. I let it go to voicemail. His message was angry. Accusations about how I was destroying the family, how Stephanie was crying. How could I do this to my own daughter? I deleted it halfway through. Stephanie's texts came next. A barrage of them over the next few days. Mom, please. We can work this out. You're being unreasonable. Think about Emma and Jack. You're hurting your grandchildren. Chad's mom thinks you've lost it. Maybe we should take you to a doctor. That last one made me laugh. A bitter sound in my quiet house. Of course Linda thought I'd lost it. Linda, who had taken my place in Stephanie's kitchen, who got to be the involved grandmother while I was relegated to the children's table. I didn't respond to any of the texts. Margaret called on day 15. They want to meet. Negotiate a settlement. What are they offering? $20,000 now, the rest over 3 years. No interest. No. Mrs. Patterson. No. The note says 5 years. They have 4 years left to pay it in full, but I want it now. All of it. They might not have it. Then they can refinance the house, take out a home equity loan, sell the wine fridge. I surprised myself with how cold I sounded. They figured out how to get the money from me. They can figure out how to give it back. Margaret was quiet for a moment. You know, in 20 years of practicing law, I've seen a lot of family disputes, usually over inheritances, estates, that sort of thing. But this is different. How? Usually the parents are dead. They can't fight back. She paused. You're fighting back, Mrs. Patterson. Yes, I said. I suppose I am. The lawsuit was filed on day 31. Stephanie didn't call. Chad didn't call. But Linda called. Barbara, this is cruel. Stephanie is your only child. Those are your only grandchildren. And you're destroying the family over money? Linda, with respect, This isn't your business. Stephanie is beside herself. She can't sleep. The kids know something's wrong. You're traumatizing your own family. Am I? Something hot rose in my chest. Let me tell you about trauma, Linda. Trauma is finding out your daughter is planning to put you in assisted living so she can access your money. Trauma is realizing you're only valuable as long as your checkbook is open. Trauma is spending Christmas alone because family time doesn't include you. That's not Stephanie would never. I heard them, Linda. I heard Chad suggest it. I heard Stephanie agree to look at facilities. So please, don't tell me about trauma. Linda hung up. She called Stephanie immediately after. I know because Stephanie's text came 30 seconds later. You were eavesdropping? You came into my house uninvited and listened to a private conversation? I typed back slowly, carefully. I used the key you gave me. I came at the time you scheduled. And yes, I heard you planning my future without me. So here's my answer. No, I will not be going to any facility. I will not be convenient. And I will not be funding your life anymore. The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, nothing came through. The court date was set for September. Margaret was confident. They signed the note. They took the money. This is open and shut. But something happened in July that changed everything. I got a call from Emma's school. My number was still listed as an emergency contact. Emma had had an asthma attack, a bad one. Stephanie and Chad were both unreachable. Could I come? I was there in 15 minutes. Found Emma in the nurse's office, breathing into a nebulizer, her face pale and scared. The nurse said they'd called an ambulance to be safe. I rode with Emma to the hospital, held her hand, told her she was brave, called Stephanie over and over until she finally picked up. Mom, why are you calling from the hospital? Emma had an asthma attack. We're at Street Mary's. Where are you? I heard the panic in her voice. I'm at the salon. Chad's in meetings. I'll be right there. She burst into the emergency room 20 minutes later, hair half highlighted, still wearing the salon cape. Saw me sitting with Emma and stopped short. Mom, she's okay. They're just monitoring her. The attack wasn't severe, but school protocol. Stephanie moved to Emma's other side, took her hand. Emma looked between us, confused by the tension. Grandma came in the ambulance with me, Emma said quietly. She told me jokes. Stephanie's eyes met mine over Emma's head. I saw it there, the realization that despite everything, despite the lawyer and the lawsuit and the anger, I'd still shown up. Because that's what you do for people you love. The doctor came in, said Emma could go home. Stephanie signed the discharge papers. I stood to leave. Mom, Stephanie said, can we talk? Outside? We stood in the hospital parking lot. Summer heat radiating off the asphalt. Stephanie's hair still wrapped in foil. Thank you, she said, for being there. She's my granddaughter. I know. And you've always been there. For everything. Stephanie's voice cracked. I don't know how this got so messed up. Don't you? She looked away. Chad said, we heard wrong. That conversation you mentioned. He said, we were just talking hypothetically. Planning for the future. You know. In case I became inconvenient? That's not what I meant. Stephanie. I kept my voice gentle. I'm 67. I'm healthy. I walk 3 miles every morning. I volunteer at the library twice a week. I'm not slowing down. I'm not a burden. And I'm not going anywhere unless I choose to go. I know. Do you? Because for the past 6 months, you've been pulling away, scheduling me, limiting my time with my grandchildren, making me feel like I'm an obligation instead of a mother. Tears were streaming down her face now. It wasn't supposed to be like that. It's just, Chad's mom is so involved. She's always available, always offering to help, and I thought maybe you wanted space. After Dad died, you seemed so sad, and I didn't want to burden you with our problems. I was sad because your father died. But being with you, with Emma and Jack, that helped. That made me less lonely. until you started pushing me out. I wasn't pushing you out. I was just, I don't know. Chad said we needed to establish boundaries, that you were too dependent on us. And his mom said, what did Linda say? Stephanie wiped her eyes. That you were codependent, that I needed to let you build your own life instead of revolving around ours. I almost laughed. Linda said that? Linda, who's at your house 4 days a week? Who texted me about destroying the family? She means well. I'm sure she does. But Stephanie, I wasn't codependent. I was being your mother. There's a difference. We stood there in the parking lot. A plane flew overhead, drawing a white line across the blue sky. The lawsuit, Stephanie said finally. You're really going through with it? Do you have the $60,000? No. Then yes. I'm going through with it. Even if it means we never speak again? I looked at my daughter. Her highlights were running, her mascara smudged, her hands twisted together the way they'd been since she was a little girl trying not to cry. Stephanie, I don't want to lose you. I've never wanted to lose you, but I can't be your bank anymore, and I can't wait around to be shuttled off somewhere because I'm in the way. If our relationship can't survive me setting boundaries and asking for what's legally mine, then maybe it wasn't as strong as I thought. That's not fair. Life rarely is, sweetheart. Your father taught me that. I walked to my car. Stephanie called after me. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the conversation you heard. I'm sorry about Christmas. I'm sorry about all of it. I turned back. Then prove it. Pay back the loan. Show me that I matter for more than my money. The court date came. Margaret and I sat at one table. Stephanie, Chad, and their lawyer sat at another. The judge reviewed the promissory note, the bank statements, the evidence. It took 20 minutes. The note is legally binding, the judge said. The defendants have no grounds to contest it. I'm ordering full repayment within 90 days, plus legal fees and court costs. Next case. Outside the courthouse, Chad was furious. Stephanie was crying. Their lawyer was explaining their options: refinancing, loans, payment plans. I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. Margaret walked me to my car. You did the right thing. Did I? Yes, they took advantage. You set a boundary. That's healthy. It doesn't feel healthy. Give it time. 2 weeks later, a check arrived in the mail. $60,000. A cashier's check, no note, just my name and address on the envelope. They'd refinanced the house. I deposited the check. Didn't call to acknowledge it. Margaret said we'd get the legal fees in a separate payment. She was right. Those came 3 weeks later. I should have felt something. Relief, satisfaction, justice. Instead, I just felt empty. September came. October. The maple trees in my neighborhood turned brilliant red, and I thought about the maple trees in Stephanie's yard. Wondered if Emma and Jack were jumping in leaf piles. Wondered if Linda was there, watching them, taking my place. Then November came, and with it, an invitation. Not an email, a physical card, cream-colored, my name handwritten on the envelope. You are invited to Thanksgiving dinner at the home of Stephanie and Chad Morrison. Thursday, November 24th, 2 p.m. Please, RSVP. There was a note paper-clipped to it. Stephanie's handwriting. Mom, I know I don't deserve this, but I'm asking anyway. Please come. Emma asks about you every day. Jack made you a card at school. I've made mistakes. So many mistakes. But you're my mother, and I'm asking you to give me a chance to do better. Love, Stephanie. I held that invitation for 3 days, stared at it, put it down, picked it back up. I called Margaret. What would you do? Mrs. Patterson, I'm your lawyer, not your family therapist. I'm asking as a friend. She was quiet for a moment. I'd go. But I'd go on my terms, and I'd be ready to leave if those terms weren't met. I called Stephanie. I'll come to Thanksgiving, but I need to say something first. Anything. I won't be treated like an afterthought. I won't be scheduled and limited and pushed aside. I won't fund your lifestyle or bail you out of financial problems. I'm your mother, not your emergency fund. And if Linda is going to be the primary grandmother, then I need to know that now so I can step back permanently. Silence. Then, Mom, I fired Linda. What? Not fired. That sounds terrible. But I told her she needed to step back, that she was overstepping, that I needed space for my actual mother. Stephanie's voice shook. I told her what she said about you being codependent was cruel, that you were just being loving, and that I was an idiot for listening. Stephanie, I've missed you, Mom. Emma cries about you. Jack asked if you were dead because you haven't been around, and I realized I did this. I pushed away the one person who's always been there for me. For what? For Chad's mom's approval? For some idea of independence that just made me lonely? I closed my eyes. What about Chad? Chad is. We're in counseling. The money stuff. The pressure he put on me about you. The way he talked about you. It's not okay. He knows that now. Is he sorry? He's trying to be. He wrote you a letter. An apology. I made him rewrite it 3 times because the first 2 weren't sincere enough. Despite everything? I smiled. You made him rewrite it? You're my mother. He doesn't get to disrespect you and stay in my good graces. We were both quiet. I'll come to Thanksgiving, I said finally. But Stephanie, I meant what I said. I'm not an ATM. If you need help, ask me as a mother, not a bank. I will. I promise. And Mom, we're putting together a real repayment plan for the other money. The wedding, the medical bills, all of it. It might take years, but we're going to pay you back. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You were right. I took advantage. I got comfortable taking from you without thinking about what I was giving back. That stops now. Thanksgiving was different. The table was smaller. Just us. Me, Stephanie, Chad, Emma, and Jack. No Linda. No crowds of people. Chad's apology was awkward but seemed genuine. He couldn't quite meet my eyes, but he thanked me for coming, for giving them another chance. Emma sat next to me, holding my hand through most of dinner. Jack gave me a card he'd made at school. It had my name in rainbow letters and a drawing of us holding hands. That's us at the park, he explained. Remember when you taught me to fly a kite? I did remember. It was last spring, before everything fell apart. After dinner, Stephanie and I did dishes while Chad took the kids outside. I was so stupid, Stephanie said, scrubbing a pan. I let other people's opinions matter more than my relationship with you. You're not stupid. You were trying to figure out your life, your marriage, your family. Sometimes we make mistakes in the process. Big mistakes. Yes, big ones. I handed her a plate to dry. But you're fixing them. That's what matters. I don't want to be the daughter who puts her mother in a home to get her inheritance. Then don't be. She looked at me. It's really that simple? It's really that simple. Choose to be different. Choose to be better. Choose to be present. I paused. And choose to include me in your life because you want to, not because you feel obligated. I do want to. I really, really do. Emma ran in from outside. Grandma, can you help me with my science project? It's about the solar system, and Mom says you used to be really good at science. I looked at Stephanie, who nodded. I'd love to help, I said. When do you want to work on it? Can you come over this weekend? Saturday, maybe? Saturday works. Can you stay for dinner too, please? I looked at Stephanie again. She was smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. Yes, I said. I can stay for dinner. It's been 4 months since that Thanksgiving. Things aren't perfect. Stephanie and I are rebuilding trust slowly. I don't have a key to their house anymore, but I do have a standing invitation to Sunday dinners. Chad is stilted around me, but trying. Emma's science project got an A, and she's already asking for help with her next one. Last week, an envelope came in the mail, a check for $5,000. The memo line said, wedding repayment, 1 of 9. I called Stephanie. You really didn't have to do this. Yes, I did. You gave me a beautiful wedding when you were grieving Dad. That money wasn't spare change, and I treated it like it was. So yes, I'm paying you back. What about your bills? The kids? We're managing. Chad got that promotion. I went back to work 3 days a week. We're cutting back on things we don't need, learning to live within our means. It's actually kind of freeing. I thought about that, about Richard and me in our early years, making every dollar count, building our life bit by bit. It had been hard, but those were good years. I'm proud of you, I said. Yeah? Yeah. Last month, I finally made a decision I'd been putting off. I booked a trip, not to Montana, not to the cabin Richard and I had dreamed about. That dream belonged to a different life, a different version of me. Instead, I booked a cruise. Alaska. 3 weeks, I'd be gone for Emma's birthday, and Stephanie asked if I could reschedule. The old me might have. This me said no. I've rearranged my life for other people for 40 years, I told her gently. I need to stop doing that. I love Emma. I'll celebrate with her before I go, but I'm taking this trip. Stephanie was quiet. Then, you're right. Go. Have an amazing time. Send us pictures. You're not upset? I'm learning, Mom. I'm learning that you're a person with your own life, not just my mother. And that's a good thing. I leave next week. My bags are already half packed. I'm excited. More excited than I've been about anything in years. I bought a new camera, new hiking boots, a journal to document the trip. Yesterday, Emma and Jack came over to help me pack. Emma helped me fold clothes, while Jack inspected my camera. Are you going to meet new friends? Emma asked. Maybe. Is that okay with you? Yeah, you should have lots of friends. Mommy said you're going to see whales and glaciers and maybe bears. That's the plan. I'm gonna miss you, Jack said, putting the camera down. 3 weeks is a long time. I'll miss you too, but I'll be back before you know it. And I'll bring you both souvenirs. Bring yourself back, Emma said seriously. That's the best present. When they left, Stephanie lingered at the door. Thank you, she said. For what? For not giving up on me. For fighting back when I needed you to fight. For teaching me that boundaries go both ways. She hugged me. Have the best time in Alaska. You deserve it. I watched them drive away. Stephanie's hand waving out the window, the kids' faces pressed against the glass. I thought about that day in the bank, asking for those statements. I thought about Margaret's office, deciding to demand my money back. I thought about the courtroom, the check, the months of silence. I thought about that conversation I'd overheard. Chad talking about freeing up my money, Stephanie agreeing to look at facilities. I thought about the price of dignity, about what it costs to value yourself, about the difference between being a mother and being used. And I thought about now, about Sunday dinners and science projects, about checks arriving in the mail with repayment in the memo line, about my daughter learning that love and respect have to coexist, about my grandchildren knowing their grandmother has her own life, her own dreams, her own boundaries. It wasn't the relationship I'd had before. It was different, smaller in some ways, but healthier, more balanced, more honest. I don't know if Stephanie will keep making payments. I don't know if our relationship will last, or if we'll fall back into old patterns. I don't know if Chad will ever really see me as more than the woman who sued his family. What I do know is this. I'm 67 years old. I'm healthy. I'm taking a 3-week cruise to Alaska. I have money in the bank that I earned, that I saved, that I protected. I have a daughter who's learning what it means to value me beyond my checkbook. I have grandchildren who light up when I walk in the room, and I have my dignity. That's something no one can take from me unless I give it away. I'm not giving it away anymore. My daughter told me to stop showing up unannounced, so I showed her that doors swing both ways, that boundaries protect everyone, that respect is earned, not inherited, that sometimes the quietest moves are the most powerful ones. That's my story. I'm Barbara, and I'm still writing it.